Hey everyone, I'm the Blackhead Richard Core Kenobi here, and I'm back again for another Honest Thoughts, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my honest thoughts on Darkwing Ducks Return in the new Ducktales episode. So, yes guys, I have the biggest smile and grin on my face. As you can't tell, Darkwing Duck is back, and guys, it was awesome. Now, I am going to address everything, but I'm also going to leave a link down below to this YouTuber who does amazing DuckTales breakdowns and gives us great theories, and just overall, he does reviews of each episode, and his YouTube name is Seaniccus. Please go down and check out his video about this topic as well. So, yes, guys, sorry, my eye was itchy. So, yes, let's just go ahead and talk about this. So, again, last Friday, we got the newest episode, Beware the Buddy System, and it was overall a great episode. It gave us three things. It gave us three things. It gave us Darkwing Ducks Return, it gave us a great central focus on Launchpad, and it gave us the introduction of Gizmo Duck, and it was just a great episode. Fans are already saying it's their favorite episode, and rightfully so. It's mine as well. It topped the premiere for me. That's how great this episode was. So, props to the whole crew and cast for working on this. Guys, just great job all around. So let's go ahead and talk about Darkwing Duck. Now, I'm not going to give you guys my thoughts on the episode, but if you do want to know them, it was just a great episode. Go watch it. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go watch it right now on the Disney Channel app, or you can DeviantArt it, or you can obviously just find it on the internet on Disney's website. So please go watch this episode and support the official release. But I'm just going to talk about Darkwing Duck and Launchpad. So, first of all, let's just talk about Darkwing Duck. So, okay, if you aren't familiar with Darkwing Duck, basically, we gotta go all the way back, just a little mini trivia. Darkwing Duck was the second Disney Afternoon duck show that came out shortly after DuckTales, and instead of just being what Gummy Bears and Ducktales and Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers were, it decided to basically be a superhero show. Now, unlike other superhero shows like Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, and Spider-Man, this show decided to be a parody on that, and unlike The Tick or Freakazoid, it decided to do something that no other superhero show at that time did. It decided to have its main superhero, Drake Mallard, aka Darkwing Duck, be a egotistical superhero who is not doing the superhero thing because it's morally right or because he wants to bring justice and peace to the world. He's doing it because he wants fame, fortune, and he just wants to pretty much, yeah, he just wants to be famous. That's it. There's really nothing much else I could say about it other than that. And again, you would think that this kind of mentality would make him a bad role model, but he eventually did grow out of it after he got his adoptive daughter and his sidekick Launchpad. He did start doing things more right and becoming a better person, but he still wanted to be famous. He still wanted his fans, the media, his own merchandise. So even though he wasn't that obsessed with it, he still was obsessed with it. So yeah, it was overall just a great show. My friend Duo Dreamers said it best. It had hands down the best villains, the best city, the best action, one of the best comedies. It was just a great show, and it still holds up amazingly today. So yes, that's Darkwing Duck. Now let's just talk about his appearance in this episode. Now, yes, I am a huge fan of Darkwing Duck. It was my second favorite watch show behind the original DuckTales and Gargoyles. Those were three shows I would immediately watch on the Disney Channel. So, yes, and I've been, like you all, I've been waiting for Darkwing Duck to come back for a very, very long time. And finally, he did come back in this episode. Now, if you haven't seen this episode, I am going to go into a little bit of spoilers because I know a lot of you want to know, did he actually get to interact with Scrooge, Launchpad, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Webby, and just, did he get to be in Duckburg? Well, no, I'm sorry, he doesn't actually make a physical appearance in this, because as the first minute is going to show, I'll get into that, but okay, so let's just talk about his introduction. So, the first minute doesn't open up with Scrooge on another adventure. It doesn't open up with the triplets. It opens up in St. Canard. I am dead serious. And it's nighttime. And we see this amazing shot of the city. Again, St. Canard is still dripping with atmosphere. And I love it. Like, again, it reminds me a lot of the show. So, again, great job there. And then we see a robbery by Crackerjack, the Liquidator, and Megavolt. Yes, one of his 3 villains actually make an appearance in this, and it was so awesome to see them back. It would have been even more interesting if they got Negaduck, but, you know, what you gonna do? But nevertheless, it still doesn't matter. So you see them, they're about to make their getaway, and then, of course, Darkwing throws the light shatter, and you see smoke, purple smoke, the classic smoke, and then you hear Darkwing Duck's voice saying, "I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the lone roller skate that trips Evil's piano. I am Darkwing Duck." And guys, this is where I effing marked out. It was amazing to hear Jim Cummings back as Darkwing again, and then after that, he of course comments maybe he's got to get a shorter intro, and he takes down the villains. He takes down Crackerjack pretty easily, and then he says his other famous catchphrase, "Let's get dangerous." And he's trying to take down Megavolt and the Liquidator. He's dodging, he's parrying, so he's doing classic Darkwing Duck where he would take down his villains, sometimes in a cartoony way, but also in a superhero way. So, again, the detail of how he takes down his villains here, it's classic. And we actually do see an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference before he takes down Crackerjack. I won't say where, but let me know if you can spot it. So then, yes, after that, he does get, you know, banged up, but then he immediately uses his trademark grapple gun, gets out of there, and it's the classic electricity and water shock each other, and then boom. Then it turns out it was all just a TV show being watched by Dewey while Launchpad is getting ready for his big day. And Dewey is commenting, saying, "What is this weird show?" And Launchpad is like, "Well, that's Darkwing Duck, the greatest TV show of all time." And Dewey says, "Maybe when you were a kid." And he comments on how Darkwing Duck, this superhero, doesn't use lasers, he doesn't fly, and you just see and hear Launchpad pretty much being us, the older generation, saying that's what made him so awesome. Like, he didn't need powers to be a hero. Like, he proved anyone could. So it's kind of like the Batman thing here, if you get it. And, of course, Dewey is just commenting on how, why didn't he just use CGI to do this or that? And it turns out that, that Darkwing / Drake Mallard is being played by an actor named Jim Starlin. Amazing. I love that last name so much. Again, great meta humor right there. And he actually did his own stunts, and while Launchpad says, yeah, he got banged up in the later seasons, but that just showed how heroic he was. And this was just great. This first minute, it is a perfect tribute to Darkwing Duck, and also, to see Launchpad explain what made him so great and why Darkwing Duck in this episode, again, even though he doesn't actually appear physically, he actually has a presence and a huge role in this episode because he's actually an inspiration for Launchpad, and he's Launchpad's heroes. Like, Launchpad based everything on his actions, on, like, Launchpad does what he does, it's because Darkwing taught him that you have to get dangerous a little sometimes, but I'm going to get into that later. So the fact that, okay, Darkwing Duck in this universe is a show within a show, that is fucking genius. Perfect. Like, perfect. I gotta give props to the producer of Ducktales, Frank Angelos, and of course, Ben Balesti, I hope I said that right, I apologize, who actually helped him out in this, and he is the one who storyboarded the first minute of what you just saw and what I just described. He is a huge Darkwing Duck fan, so the fact that he threw out as many Easter eggs as possible, like, this first minute can be seen as a continuation to the original show if you removed the original Launchpad and the original Disney Afternoon connection. So, props to both of them. Great. And again, it was awesome to hear Jim Cummings back again as Darkwing Duck. He slipped into the role like that. It's like he never left. Again, this year is the year of Jim Cummings. He's coming back as Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin, and he came back as Darkwing Duck for this episode. So, yes, amazing. Very good. Now, let's talk about this for a second, because, again, let's really talk about Launchpad now, because, again, I told you all about Darkwing Duck, but let's talk about Launchpad, because he is what this episode is all about, and this episode is just about him trying to prove himself to Scrooge McDuck and to everyone else that, just prove himself that he is a good driver, and he is trying not to be himself, because there's so many layers to him in this episode that I can't believe it. Basically, once again, Darkwing Duck was his hero, and he impacted his life on how he does things. And whereas with Darkwing Duck, his signature catchphrase, "Let's get dangerous," which that is a perfect definition of what Darkwing / Drake Mallard / Jim Starlin is, and how he does things in life. That's the opposite, but somewhat similar thing with Launchpad. Launchpad does, of course, throughout this episode, show us he's willing to get dangerous, but in a safe way. And I like that. I really, really like that. It adds whole new layers to him. And there's actually a moment in the episode where he's asking that he wants to do things safely, and he doesn't want to be himself. And the way Beck Bennett performed it, the way the animation captured it, you could feel the body language convey on screen. And again, I won't say anything more than that, but let's just say if you haven't seen this episode and you wanted a Launchpad standout episode, this is for you. This is all Launchpad's episode. It shows us everything and tells us everything about his character more than the original. And the fact that they made me like this new Launchpad more than the original, that's nothing against the original. You guys know I love the original Launchpad, but this new Launchpad has layers to him. He is so relatable. He's pretty much us. He represents us on how we're impacted by our heroes from TV, and I like that. But he also tries to make an effort to not be himself by the end of it, because there's this whole running thing where he has a Darkwing Duck talking bobblehead on his dashboard, and every time he presses it, it says, "Let's get dangerous." And he pretty much he pretty much looks for inspiration and guidance by Darkwing Duck. Because again, Darkwing Duck is his hero and his idol. And there is a moment in the episode where he decides not to get dangerous, but he has to by the end. So again, perfect character writing and character development for Launchpad. Using Darkwing Duck to convey and get it done for Launchpad, I thought that was a genius move, and yeah, I can't say any more. I can't do it justice. You just have to watch the episode to believe it. So, yes, Launchpad was hands down one of the best parts of this episode, aside from seeing Darkwing Duck and Gizmo Duck. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, because I know a lot of you have questions, is, okay, that's awesome. That sounds awesome. The fact that, okay, the first minute of seeing Darkwing Duck, it's a show within a show, which, by the way, in my opinion, I'm going to explain this a little bit. It does make sense. Seeing him come back, seeing him actually have a presence and having an impact on Launchpad and actually helping him, but not... Maybe Launchpad isn't being helped by Darkwing physically, but he is still being helped as if Darkwing was his... As if Launchpad was still his sidekick, which I think is a great idea. Again, there is so much they did in this episode to make Darkwing and Launchpad stand out from the original, and I like that, but still keeping one of those things just like the original, this being Darkwing. So let's talk about this. You all want to know, okay, Darkwing came back, he had a huge presence in this episode, but can he come back physically? Or if not, can we see more of him? Like, I know those are the questions you have. Now, first of all, the short answer, no, I don't think we're ever going to see Darkwing actually be the superhero, actually battling his villains and being a city over from Duckburg. So, no. I mean, St. Canard does exist in this universe, but it just doesn't... We're not going to be able to see Darkwing come over or go over there. So, sadly, no. But the other thing is that, okay, will we see a Darkwing Duck spinoff? It's possible, but I don't think Disney has plans for that. Because, see, that's the thing. If Disney was to hypothetically do a spinoff, then, okay, it would have to be within the show universe of Darkwing Duck, of Ducktales, so it would actually be kind of prequel, and it would show cameos of Baby Launchpad, which that would be adorable. It would probably show a Scrooge and Donald, so it could happen, and maybe we could actually get to see some of the adventures on the screen, but also off the screen too. Kind of like, okay, that one episode of Supernatural where, like, Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki have to play themselves, playing themselves on a set. I think we could get something similar to that, but that would just be awesome. But I don't know. It's possible, but again, I don't know. Now, as to why I think this makes sense, Darkwing Duck being a show within a show. First of all, again, it makes sense because it's what Darkwing would want. Because if he heard he was going to get his own TV show, you better believe that would fill his meter of wanting fame and fortune like that. So, yes, it does make sense for him. The second thing is that it's mostly a pushing... It's something to motivate and impact Launchpad, because Launchpad, as we see on his driver's license, he was actually born in September of 1987, when the first Ducktales show came out. So, in the way, he's representing us, that old generation, and when he's talking to Dewey, which, by the way, I love how Dewey is criticizing Darkwing Duck, saying, picking it apart. And pretty much, it's what kids would do, because if kids saw what we saw back then, they would see it as dated and cheesy, but we would have to explain it to them, how this show impacted our lives and what it taught us. And I think that's good. But also, too, just seeing how this affected Launchpad, I think that's what makes this genius. Because you guys gotta remember, while this new DuckTales show is it's doing three things, because it's unlike the Powerpuff Girls reboot. It's not a back and forth reboot / continuation. No, what this is that this new show is pretty much drawing from the comics. It's pretty much an adaptation of the comics. It's also taking elements of the old DuckTales show, but it's also trying to be its own thing. So it has to juggle all three of those things and keep a balance. And I think this episode shows you how it balances all three. And if a Darkwing Duck show were to come out, it would just have to balance two of those things, because again, that first minute can be seen as a continuation of the original show, but they would just have to make it new and refreshing for those of us who saw this first minute and would want something like that. But it would also have to get kids excited, because again, I don't know how many kids know about Darkwing Duck, but if this makes them go back and watch that, maybe we'll get a Darkwing Duck show. Now, again, last thing I want to mention, how can Darkwing Duck, or let's be more specific here, how can Jim Starlin come back in this episode? Because you better believe this isn't going to be the last time we're going to see Darkwing Duck. There are three things that could happen on how Darkwing can come back in this show and be there physically, somewhat. The first thing is a dream sequence where, say, Launchpad gets knocked out or he's just dreaming, and the whole episode is him being Darkwing Duck's sidekick, and it's literally feels like an old episode of the show, the classic old show, but done in the new style and with new great writing. That could happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. I would love to see a whole episode dedicated to that. Like, I don't even care if it's a dream sequence. It would be awesome. The second thing is that they could have Jim Starlin come back, but it's a reunion, and he's obviously happy that there are still fans of his show. He's signing autographs, and he gets the chance to talk to Launchpad. So Launchpad is just telling him that you were my inspiration, you impacted my life, and you taught me so many things. So it's pretty much Launchpad thanking his hero, and some situation happens where, okay, Jim Starlin has to become Darkwing Duck for real, and he has to save the day. And so he would probably be around maybe in his late 50s, early 60s. So even if he's old, it still wouldn't matter. He would be able to put on that costume again and show that, you know, yeah, he got banged up a lot on the show, which does perfectly capture the original, by the way, but he still is able to pull it off. This would be very similar. It's pretty much like the Batman the Animated Series episode, Beware the Grey Ghost. It would be like that, but for Darkwing Duck in this. And I think that would be fucking wonderful. But no matter how it goes, no matter what the crew think of, I was just happy we got to see Darkwing Duck come back again, and it put a huge smile on my face. I've watched that first minute over and over and over again, and you better believe I'm going to keep watching it until I get tired of it, but I don't think that'll happen. So yes, thank you to the crew. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for giving us a great episode. Again, this episode is hands down my favorite of the reboot, and I would highly suggest you guys go watch it, so please. But yeah, guys, there you go. That was my honest thoughts on Darkwing Ducks Return. I hope I answered your questions, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you did, then please hit that like button if you enjoyed, and if you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. And if you want to stay up to date with all of my videos and more, then please hit that little notification bell to be notified whenever my new videos drop. So yes, everyone, thank you so much. And let's comment down below. This isn't done. What are your guys' thoughts on Darkwing Duck's Return and him being a show within a show? Are you happy he came back? Are you a little disappointed you didn't actually get to see him interact with anyone? Whatever it is, comment below and let's get this discussion going. So yes, everyone, until then, my fellow Darkwing Duck fans, this is Richard Kenobi saying, may the Force be with you all, and I'll see you guys for the next time.